In the heart of Burkina Faso, under the unrelenting sun, a convoy rolled silently through the capital. Its black cars glimmered against the dust, symbols of power and order. Inside one of them sat a man whose name had become a symbol of defiance, humility, and hope. President Ibrahim Traore. But destiny has a way of crossing paths when we least expect it. As his car slowed near a crowded intersection, something, or someone, caught his eye. There, by a cracked wall smeared with old posters and shadows, sat a man who looked half-faded from life itself, his head bowed, his hands trembling, a tin cup before him, nearly empty. Ibrahim's gaze lingered. His heart whispered a question his mind couldn't yet answer. Why? Does that face look familiar? He raised a hand. Stop the car, he said quietly. The convoy halted. Guards shifted uneasily, but the president had already stepped out. The heat hit his face like a furnace, yet his steps were calm, deliberate, like a man walking into a memory. The beggar looked up. His eyes squinted, pupils shrinking against the sunlight. Then, disbelief. His lips trembled as a single name escaped. Musa. The name struck Ibrahim like thunder. He froze, searching that worn, hollow face. The lines were deeper, the skin darker from sun and struggle. But yes, beneath the exhaustion, the brokenness, it was him. Musa. Ibrahim's voice softened. Is it really you? The man tried to rise, his legs weak, his body trembling. It's me, Ibrahim, he whispered. Or what's left of me. For a heartbeat, the two men just stared at each other. One clothed in power, the other stripped of everything. Two old friends separated not by time but by fate. Come, Ibrahim said firmly. Musa shook his head, shame clouding his eyes. No, not like this. Look at me, I'm not fit to enter your car. Ibrahim's expression hardened, not in anger but in conviction. You are my brother, my friend. That's all that matters. The guards hesitated. The president's tone left no room for debate. Within minutes, the man once forgotten by the streets was seated in the convoy beside the head of state. A silence between them heavier than words. Musa bathed. Clean clothes replaced his torn ones. He sat at a long wooden table before dishes that filled the air with warmth. Yet he ate slowly, almost fearfully, as though the food might vanish if he moved too quickly. Ibrahim watched quietly. Every motion, every flicker of guilt in Musa's eyes told a story words hadn't yet revealed. When the plates were cleared, Ibrahim poured 2 glasses of juice. The clink of glass echoed softly. Now, he said gently, tell me, you were one of the brightest men I ever knew. What happened, Musa? Musa stared at the table, his fingers tracing invisible circles on the wood. A sigh escaped him. Weary, heavy, broken. It started 3 years ago. His voice cracked like old wood as he began to speak. He told Ibrahim of his days as a proud school principal in Bobo Dioulasso, a man respected, loved, trusted. Of how he'd saved every franc to build a small home, and how joy had come in the form of his wife, Stella. At first, Musa said, it was perfect. She laughed often. She called me her king. I believed we had forever, but forever doesn't always last. He paused. His eyes glistened. She changed, Ibrahim. Grew distant, always on her phone. Quick to anger. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself lies. Then, with a voice barely above a whisper, one afternoon I came home early, and I found her, in our bed. With another man, silence fell. Only the ticking of a clock filled the room. Ibrahim's jaw tightened. What did you do? Musa's lips trembled. I walked out. I couldn't fight. My hands shook. My soul broke. And when I tried to speak, she followed me outside. No shame, no regret. She told me it was over, that he was the man she loved now. The words stabbed through the room like a blade of ice. Ibrahim's eyes hardened. She asked you to leave your own house? Musa nodded. Yes, and when I refused, she took me to court, lied, said she paid for it, brought fake documents. The judge believed her. They threw me out of my own home. His voice fell to a whisper. I lost everything after that. My job, my savings, my dignity. I thought I had nothing left to lose. He looked up, tears trembling in his eyes. But I was wrong. I still had my pride. And even that, life took away. In that quiet room, 2 men sat in silence. One had climbed to power through courage and conviction. The other had fallen through betrayal and loss. Yet both shared the same truth, that life tests every soul, no matter how high it rises. And sometimes the strongest hearts are found among the broken. But Musa's story was far from over. That night, Musa slept without fear for the first time in years. The pavement had been replaced by a bed of white linen. The hunger in his stomach had turned to peace. And somewhere between darkness and dawn, a forgotten man remembered what it meant to dream again. Papers lay untouched before President Ibrahim Traore. His pen hovered above a blank page. But his thoughts were far from politics. He saw not the man he'd met that afternoon, but the boy he'd once known. Musa. The one who used to lend him books when he had none, who shielded him from bullies, who once told him, "Never stop believing, Ibrahim. Even when they laugh at you." The memory struck deep. He whispered to himself, "I owe him more than a meal. He gave me courage when I had nothing. Now it's my turn to give him back his life." His grip on the pen tightened, not from duty, but from love. Musa awoke slowly, the softness of the sheets still foreign to him. The scent of warm bread drew him back to reality. A gentle knock came at the door. "Come in," he said softly. A young attendant entered carrying a tray of breakfast. "Good morning, sir. The president asked me to serve you." Musa blinked. "Sir." It had been years since anyone had called him that. He sat up, heart pounding with gratitude and disbelief. Yesterday he was a beggar. Today he was a guest in the house of a president. As he ate, he stared out the window, sunlight dancing across the garden, and whispered, "What will tomorrow bring?" "Musa," he called, voice calm but filled with emotion. "Your story broke my heart." Musa lowered his gaze. "I didn't mean to bring trouble into your home." "You didn't bring trouble," Ibrahim replied, eyes burning with conviction. "You brought truth, and truth should never be hidden. It should lead to action." "Action?" Musa asked, uncertain. Ibrahim nodded. "You've carried your pain long enough. Now it's my turn to carry you." Doctors examining Musa, nodding approvingly, scissors snipping away his unkempt hair, steam rising from a hot bowl of soup, his reflection in the mirror. Clean, alive, unrecognizable. The man staring back was no longer a ghost of the streets. There was light in his eyes again, fragile but real. The convoy stopped before a modest cream and brown house, its garden alive with hibiscus and marigolds. Musa looked out, confused. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "Whose house is this?" Ibrahim smiled. "It's yours." Musa froze. "What?" "Ibrahim, no. This is too much. It's fully yours," Ibrahim said firmly. "Paid for. No one can ever take it away again." Musa's lips trembled. "Why would you do this for me?" Ibrahim's eyes softened, glistening in the fading light. "Because I remember who you are. You gave me books when I had none. You defended me when I was weak. You believed in me before I believed in myself." Musa's eyes filled. "I only did what a friend should do. And now," Ibrahim said, resting a hand on his shoulder, "I'm doing the same." The camera glides slowly. A cozy living room filled with sunlight. A simple kitchen, a tidy bedroom, a small office with a wooden desk and a shelf stacked with books. Musa's eyes widened. "It feels like home. I've also opened something for you," Ibrahim added with a soft smile. "A bookshop beside a secondary school. You'll run it. I've covered the first year's expenses. You belong among students, Musa. You always did." Musa covered his face with his hands. Tears spilled through his fingers. But this time they were not from pain. They were from healing. Musa arranging books neatly on shelves. Children laughing as they buy notebooks. Teachers stopping to greet him respectfully. "Good morning, Mr. Musa." Musa teaching a young boy how to solve a math problem. "Don't just memorize the answer," he said softly. "Understand the steps. That's how knowledge stays with you." Soon word spread. The man who once begged by the roadside was now a mentor, a teacher once more. Proof that no fall is final. As he organized a new shipment of textbooks, a soft, hesitant voice came from the doorway. "Musa." He turned. The book slipped slightly from his hand. There she was, Stella. Her once perfect hair was unkempt. Her clothes plain, her jewelry gone. A small suitcase sat by her feet like a confession. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. Musa folded his arms, steady but calm. Outside, they stepped into the afternoon light. "What do you want, Stella?" he asked. Tears filled her eyes. "I have nowhere to go. He left me, Musa, the man I chose. Sold everything, took my money, disappeared. I have nothing." Musa's eyes softened, not in pity but in understanding. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was blind. I was foolish. I have nowhere to sleep. Please, even for a few days." He studied her face. The same woman who once looked down on him, now broken by her own choices. "Stella," he said quietly, "I forgave you long ago. But forgiveness doesn't mean return. You chose your path and I've chosen mine. I can't walk back." Her head dropped in shame. "Please." "I wish you peace," Musa said, voice steady. "But this is not your home." He turned and walked back toward the shop. Each step felt heavy but not bitter. He had closed a door that once haunted his soul. Ibrahim's voice came through the line. "She came back, didn't she?" "Yes," Musa replied. "I told her no." There was a pause. Then a faint smile could be heard through the receiver. "I'm proud of you, my brother," Ibrahim said softly. "You didn't just regain a home. You regained yourself." Musa's shop thrived. Children greeted him with joy. Parents thanked him for helping their sons and daughters. He had become more than a shopkeeper. He was a teacher of the spirit, a guide for lost hearts. And every evening, as the sun dipped below the rooftops, Musa would close his store, gaze at the horizon and whisper, "Thank you, Ibrahim, for believing in me when I had forgotten who I was." A woman in a simple blue dress stepped in. Her smile was warm, her eyes alive. "Good morning," she said gently. "Do you have senior school math textbooks?" "Yes," Musa replied, returning the smile. "Come with me." As they walked together down the aisle of books, she added, "I've seen you before. You help children who can't afford supplies." Musa paused for a moment, a faint, humble smile tugging at his lips. "Once someone helped me too," he said softly, "and I promised I'd never stop passing it on. Some stories aren't about power or wealth. They're about kindness returning home in the hearts of those who never stopped believing." They reminded Musa of who he once was, a man full of dreams, standing tall before life's storm broke him into pieces. When Grace said that simple sentence, "They remind me of who I used to be," something inside Musa stirred awake. It was as though the ashes of his past began to glow faintly again, touched by a quiet flame of hope. He smiled, not just with his lips, but with the kind of smile that rises slowly from the heart, breaking through years of sorrow like dawn breaking through the longest night. Grace extended her hand, soft yet firm, her eyes shimmering with quiet strength. "I'm Grace," she said gently. "I teach at the secondary school nearby." Musa hesitated for a moment, then took her hand. "Musa," he replied, his voice low but steady. "I own this shop." Her eyebrows lifted with surprise and admiration. "That's wonderful. This place feels so warm, so human. We need more people like you, Musa." He felt his heart tremble slightly. It had been so long since a stranger had seen him, really seen him. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're kind." Days turned into weeks and Grace became a familiar rhythm in Musa's world, like a song he didn't know he needed until it played. Sometimes she came for notebooks, sometimes for chalk, and other times just to talk. Their conversations wandered through life's quiet corners, about students, about hope, about loss. Musa found himself waiting for her visits, the way dry earth waits for rain. Often, she brought small lunches wrapped in cloth, rice and stew, sometimes bread with honey. They would sit outside the shop beneath a neem tree, eating and laughing softly. Grace had known pain too, the kind that doesn't fade but teaches. A widow raising her daughter alone. Her husband had died in an accident when their little girl, Rachel, was barely 5. Yet in her eyes there was no bitterness, only a quiet light, the kind that comes from surviving what should have broken you. "You're a strong man, Musa," Grace told him one golden evening, as the sun poured over the rooftops like honey. He shook his head, gazing into the horizon. "I don't feel strong, I just refuse to give up breathing." She smiled gently. "That is strength. Not the absence of pain, but the decision to keep walking through it." He turned to her, voice trembling. I never thought I'd meet someone like you. Grace looked down, the faintest blush warming her cheeks. And I never thought I'd smile like this again. That night, Musa couldn't sleep. The stars seemed brighter, the air softer. He picked up his phone and called Ibrahim. I think I've met someone, Musa said, almost whispering. On the other end, Ibrahim chuckled. Musa the lover boy? Finally! Not like that, Musa said, laughing shyly. She's different, gentle, wise. It feels like she carries sunlight inside her. Then don't let that light fade, Ibrahim said warmly. You deserve peace, my friend. You deserve joy. Weeks turned into months. Grace's daughter, Rachel, began visiting the shop often, a bright-eyed girl with endless curiosity. She helped arrange books, clean shelves, and loved sitting in the corner Musa had turned into a reading nook. She called him Uncle Musa at first, then simply Musa. And slowly, the shop became more than a business. It became a home filled with laughter, learning, and new beginnings. One afternoon, Musa took Grace and Rachel to a quiet garden just outside the city. The sky was painted with strokes of orange and pink, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Kneeling before Grace, Musa held a small ring in his trembling hands. I don't have much to offer, he said softly. But what I do have I give freely, my peace, my respect, and my love. Will you marry me? Tears filled Grace's eyes. Yes, she whispered, then louder through tears. 1,000 times yes. Rachel squealed with joy, hugging them both tightly. Now we're really a family. Their wedding was simple, just family, neighbors, and a few close friends. But it was full of joy, music, and tears of gratitude. Among the guests sat President Ibrahim Traore, watching quietly from the back, his eyes glistening with pride. After the ceremony, he pulled Musa aside into the garden, where lanterns glowed like stars. You look like a man who has finally found peace, he said. Musa nodded. I have, but it wasn't peace that found me. It was you, who reminded me I was still worthy of it. Ibrahim placed a hand on his shoulder. No, my brother. You found it because you never stopped believing, even when the world gave you no reason to. Months passed. The shop flourished. Musa's home was alive with laughter and warmth. Grace taught, Rachel studied, and Musa dreamed again. But one dream grew stronger than all, to help others like him. And so, he opened the Musa Foundation, a small shelter for men who had lost everything. It offered not pity, but purpose, training, education, and the dignity of honest work. Standing before the first group, Musa said, I was once like you, hungry, broken, forgotten. But a friend's kindness lit the spark that brought me back. That is why I am here, to remind you that broken things can still be made beautiful. Across town, Stella sat in a rented room, the paint peeling from the walls. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through her phone, watching videos of Musa's speeches, his interviews, his smiling family. Each image was a knife of memory. She had once mocked him, told him he'd be nothing. Now, the man she'd left in the dust was shining brighter than the sun. Sometimes she went to his shop, only to find it closed for family gatherings. The sign on the door read, Closed this week for family time. See you soon. Through the window, she saw a photograph, Musa, Grace, and Rachel smiling together. Stella's vision blurred. She had traded gold for sand. She turned away, her steps heavy on the dusty road. The night swallowed her silence. A year later, Musa received a call from the presidential palace. I want you to speak at the National Youth Conference, Ibrahim said. Your story deserves to be heard by every young heart in this country. When Musa's name was announced, the hall fell silent. He walked to the podium in a neat gray suit, his back straight, eyes calm. The applause echoed softly like waves of respect. He took a deep breath. I was a man who lost everything, he began. Not because I was lazy, not because I was weak, but because I trusted the wrong heart. He paused. You could hear the air listening. My wife betrayed me. My world crumbled. I slept on the streets. I wanted to die. But one day, a man I once helped found me again. He didn't pity me. He lifted me. He reminded me that broken things can still be made beautiful. His eyes met Ibrahim's in the front row, two men bound by friendship and grace. The best revenge, Musa said softly, is peace. The greatest victory is forgiveness, and the most powerful story is the one where you rise again. The hall erupted in applause. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others stood, clapping until their hands ached. Months later, Musa and Grace sat on their porch. Rachel played with their puppy under the stars. The air was cool, filled with the scent of hibiscus and home. "Do you think your ex-wife regrets it now?" Grace asked softly. Musa looked up at the sky. "Maybe," he said, "but that's not my concern anymore." Grace reached for his hand. "Then let's keep writing new chapters." He smiled, his heart light. "Beautiful ones." A year later, at a quiet dinner in the presidential garden, Ibrahim handed Musa a small velvet box. "What's this?" Musa asked, puzzled. "An award," Ibrahim said, smiling, "for your work with the Musa Foundation, for giving dignity back to men who had lost hope." Inside was a golden medal. Musa's eyes glistened. "You didn't just save my life," he said softly. "You gave me the chance to save others." Ibrahim nodded. "That's the power of one act of kindness. It can echo through generations." As the night wind whispered through the trees, Musa looked toward the stars. The same stars that had once watched him sleep on the cold pavement. "Who would have thought," he murmured, "that the man with nothing would one day have more than he ever dreamed?" His eyes shone, not with pain, but with gratitude. The past was gone. The future was bright, and this time no one could take it away, because every fall can be followed by a rise. Every wound can become wisdom, and every act of kindness can rewrite a destiny. If this story touched your heart, share it, because somewhere, someone has forgotten that it's still possible to begin again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.